Last weekend, we experienced the Canada Grand Prix in Montreal. This year's edition brought us a great race, and we're here to give you the details, especially in the eyes of Charles Leclerc. What seemed like a very good race for Leclerc was quickly shattered as he ended up starting from P19 after a penalty. Leclerc's DNF in Baku last weekend marked the second time in 3 races that he had retired from the lead following a devastating engine failure in Barcelona last month, and the team confirmed that the 2 incidents may have been related. The Monegasque driver was already facing a 10th-place grid drop heading into qualifying, a third new control electronics of the season, taking him over the limit for that component and triggering the penalty. Leclerc's Baku engine, which failed during the race, was beyond repair. So rather than lose 10 places on the grid, Ferrari decided to give Leclerc a completely new PU, confirming his slide at the back of the pack. Nevertheless, the Monegasque managed to fight his way from the back of the grid all the way up to P5, minimizing the damage for his chance to be world champion and Ferrari as the title winner of the Constructor Championship. Even with a strong result for both Ferrari drivers, especially considering that Leclerc started the race in P19, in the eyes of their drivers, the race in Montreal was highly frustrating. The context of this race was not the best either for the Scuderia, coming from a double DNF in the last Grand Prix in Azerbaijan. They are definitely aware that they're now lacking points to keep up with Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, especially when their biggest rival also finished P1 and P2 in the last race, bringing in as many points as possible, while Ferrari was left with 0. Fans are even speaking of Ferrari being in a trend now of having reliability issues, which is surprising after their consistently well-managed start of the season. In the previous Grand Prix in Baku, Leclerc's DNF happened due to a malfunction in his power unit, which could not be saved. For this reason, he had to demote back to P19 at the starting grid of the race in Canada Grand Prix, only ahead of Japanese driver Yuki Tsunoda, who had been hit by a similar penalty. Beforehand, the weather forecast showed a big chance of rain during the race, such as it happened all throughout Saturday, affecting both free practice 3 and qualifying, which saw some different drivers qualifying up front, taking advantage of the conditions. In particular, Fernando Alonso, who surprisingly launched the race from P2 on the grid after a strong qualifying on Saturday. This scenario on race day would have probably created a lot more chances if Leclerc managed to keep his race clean. However, ultimately, this was not the case. The sun was shining above the Gilles Villeneuve circuit in Montreal, and conditions were optimal for a great race on Sunday. Considering the SF75's great performance so far this season, one would still have expected a solid charge from the back of the field from the Monegasque driver. His progress, though, was not as expected, neither by us, the fans, nor by his team or himself. Such as it usually happens around the midfield, Leclerc spent a number of laps stuck in a DRS train, making it very difficult to get ahead of the cars in front, and then spent almost 20 laps trying to overtake Esteban Ocon in a very strong Alpine, who we all know does not give away the position easily. All these occurrences went on to affect his chances of getting further up and eventually also the final result. It is worth mentioning that Leclerc's car had been trimmed for the race. His car was set up to optimize race pace, as he almost did not take part in qualifying, making just a few laps that would guarantee him starting in front of Tsunoda. This setup could be easily spotted on his rear wing, which was different to Sainz's one for instance. His SF75 prioritized straight-line speed and overtaking for the race, which in retrospect was probably strategically a good choice. Going from P19 to P5 is not common practice in F1, and Leclerc did undoubtedly deliver a reasonable race considering the circumstances. It only goes to show the persistence of the driver and what the SF75 is capable of when not dealing with reliability issues. Eventually, Leclerc managed to pass all of the cars mentioned above and showed some good pace, but when he came to the pits, he dropped back again. A slow pit stop made him drop behind several of the midfield cars that he had already overtaken. This, understandably, made Leclerc even more frustrated, and fans watching the race could hear this over the team radio. At least, he showed some very good pace on that final stint and managed to make his way to P5 to score some valuable 10 points of the Drivers' Championship. "It was a super frustrating race," said Leclerc. "The last part was nice, but obviously the very first part, I was stuck in a DRS train, and I couldn't do anything. Then the middle part of the race, I found myself stuck behind Esteban, who had much newer tires, so out of turn 10, when the tires are actually making the difference, he had very good traction, and that was enough for him to keep me behind all the time. Traction out of turn 10 was very important because it preceded the long straight, which is the main overtaking opportunity around the streets of Montreal. As he is still in the fight for the World Championship, Leclerc was dependent on delivering a solid race with multiple overtakings to not lose valuable points to his main rival, Max Verstappen. Speaking of Verstappen, the Dutchman ended up doing as he's done multiple times this season by winning the race, as many expected beforehand. Checo Perez, the current second place in the championship, had to abandon the race due to an engine issue, which resulted in Red Bull losing valuable points in the Constructors' Championship. Consequently, the 10 points Leclerc managed to score are a difference in his favor for the Drivers' Championship and for his team in the Constructors, as both Ferrarists managed to score point this weekend. Carlos Sainz managed to finish close to Verstappen with a P2, as he was not able to overtake the so far leading Dutchman in a thrilling final 15 laps. As a result, the Monegasque is just 3 points away from Perez in P2, but 49 points away from the championship lead, which, not too long ago, used to be his own. If it hadn't been enough with his weekend and bad streak, Leclerc also had to see his teammate fighting for the win. Understandably, that leads to the "what would have been if" thought in case he did not have to launch from the back of the grid. When being asked the question in the post-race interview if he could have beaten Verstappen without the penalty, he replied, "I don't know. I have no idea because I haven't seen Red Bull at all during the race. They were just too far in front. But the feeling was good, and whenever the feeling is good, that's a good sign. Whether it was enough or not to beat Red Bull, I don't know. I think it's been close during the whole season, and it would have been close today. I don't know, but I felt like Carlos was strong today, so this shows that it would have been close, as it has been with Carlos." This Canada weekend saw another strong performance from Mercedes, and Leclerc had to fight them this time, coming from behind. Both Mercedes cars eventually finished ahead of the Monegasque, with Lewis Hamilton in P3 for his second podium of the season and first one after the season opener in Bahrain, and George Russell behind in P4 on another very consistent performance. It appears that Mercedes is slowly figuring out what's been causing issues with their car, as their performance is consistently going up every race weekend. Russell finishing in P4 is not even considered a surprise anymore, considering that the Silver Arrow driver has finished no lower than P5 in any race so far this season. Formula One fans have also given him the suitable nickname, Mr. Consistency. The feeling of the Scuderia driver is that Mercedes might soon be up there fighting alongside them for victories. "I don't have the full picture of the race today, but they look strong," he said. "They looked much stronger than before, and if they are consistently at this level, then they can join this battle for the wins," Leclerc said. Now, it is that part of the video when we want to hear from you. Have you watched the Canadian Grand Prix? What did you think about the race? Did you find it entertaining? Also, keeping the topic of this video, what do you think about Leclerc's performance? Do you think he should be this harsh on himself after starting only at the back at the grid and charging to P5? Let us know in the comments below. If you have made it to this point of the video, thank you very much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe to F1 Trackside for more of this content. There's a lot more videos coming very soon. Until then, stay safe.